You're listening to Guitar Talk with Dave and John. Hey, welcome back to Guitar Talk. I'm Dave.
Hey, this is John.
And today we have a slew of things to talk about. It's been a busy week for both of us. John, I see you posted a few videos since we last spoke, and that your page is up and running.
The page is up and running. YouTube/John Bingham with no H in the John. Yeah, man, this is pretty interesting. Putting together videos. I'm officially a YouTube influencer.
You're a YouTuber.
Spreading my influence amongst all of the 19 to 24-year-old attractive females with daddy issues.
Right. Or not.
If I get enough influence, I'm going to convert it into a cult.
I thought you did a guitar channel.
Yeah, exactly. Oddly enough, the demographic of our audience is 100% men.
Yeah. So let's discuss you talked a little bit, the last video was about tube amps versus modeling amps.
Right.
And
it was, I mean, everybody should go and check it out. I'd appreciate that. But to give you the gist of it, basically I've spent, how long have I been playing guitar, DL? Like 25, is it 25 years? 25 years.
Wow.
And during that 25-year period, I have had a serious and nasty problem with gear, as we've discussed many times before. And I started thinking about the list of all of the different modeling amplifiers and whatever else that I've had, and it's just like, good God, man, what is wrong with you? I've had, like, Boss GT5, GT6, GT100, the Roland GP100, Line 6 Pod 2.0. I've had the XT Live, the floor unit. I've had the X3, and the list goes on and on and on. And all the way up to, like, the modern stuff. Like, right now I've got the 11 rack, as everybody knows. And I toured, or I shouldn't say toured, but I gigged a lot with the Helix over the last year. And then, of course, the other side of it is that I've had just a stupid amount of tube amplifiers, as you know.
Right. Yeah.
And, so the whole conversation is just basically about that experience. And, there's a lot of people out there, like my buddy Chris, who I play in the grunge band with. He'll never have a modeler. He's always just going to be a tube guy. And that's just the way it is for him. And then there are some guys out there that, they want to use Axe effects or whatever, and that's all they want to use because tubes are a headache. But my points were basically that both of them are relevant in different situations. I find that modelers are fantastic for recording. They're fantastic for use with in-ear monitors and a low-volume stage setting. And then conversely, they kind of suck when you put them up against a real tube amp that's got volume behind it.
Yeah, well, so as you can see, my wall behind me, that should be renamed the tube amp wall, not just the amp wall, because I do have a Line 6 Spider out of camera view that I use for lessons, and I have the Fender Mustang 2 version 2 out of the camera way. And I have an acoustic, just a bass amp, not a modeling amp. But I do have the Line 6 Flex Tone 3 in the other room, and I've used that on gigs. And it packs, like, I think 150 watts if I add another speaker, but basically 75. But I'm able to use it on stage with somebody playing a Fender amp, and I feel good with it. I think when you use a modeling amp, you are going to face that stage thing. And it's like, if somebody's using a tube amp, either get them behind plexiglass so the stage stays quiet, or get some type of reamping thing so you can use a monitor on the floor to give yourself some loud space. But for the most part, I think they're both good in different aspects, but I think they're both viable in all aspects. I tend to like modeling a lot is the easier way to get around stuff, and most people can't tell the difference. Um, when Billy Gibbons was using 11 for a couple of tours, and nobody knew. He had a bunch of Vox amps on stage and was using 11 behind it, and the amps were there for the image. But obviously, it's easier for him. He's not competing with another guitar player, so he's just playing along the bass. But yeah, no, I thought it was a good video. I enjoyed watching it, and I liked your first video as well on the recto verb.
The rectum fryer.
Yeah. I watched I saw somebody was selling in LA a stiletto head.
Yeah.
Which is
I
like
saw that too.
Yeah, what do you want? Like $750 for it? Which was really not a bad price for it.
Right. Right.
I mean,
I've had the stiletto before. I prefer the stiletto 2.
Yes.
The Stiletto 2, there was a few revisions, and I think it sounded better.
Yeah.
So if another one of those pops up, and it pops up at a similar price to that, I'll gobble that up. That's a really good amp.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, if people who don't know the Mesa Stiletto, it's a part of the dual rectifier series. And it, in fact, has the 2 rectifier options, the clean or not clean and dirty, but the solid state and tube. But it's EL34 based. It's voiced a little bit differently in the preamp. It's meant to be their British sounding amplifier.
Right. And it has the bold and spongy and except I think they have the switch on the front.
Yeah, they
instead of the back. Yeah.
Yep. I thought it was a great sounding amplifier.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, the clean in that amp sounds really good.
Well,
you can find a bunch of videos of what's his name, Andy Timmons, demoing the clean from the Stiletto, which was what he used for years before the Lone Star.
Well, I like the Marshall clean, so I mean, I think that it only makes sense what they're trying to go for, that Marshall sound. And I saw that on Craigslist, and I was like, oh, that's a great amp. I need one like I need a hole in the head, so I just ignored it. But I do love to look. To me, that's it's gear acquisition porn. You get to go look on Craigslist and see what people are desperately selling.
So, what are you using to look in Los Angeles? Are you just
I just go on Craigslist, LA. Oh yeah, okay. So when I go on Craigslist on my Google Chrome, I've saved 5 cities. So if I'm looking for something, I always go to Boston, LA, Vegas. I think I had one in Florida because I found somebody was selling a ton of Marshalls down there, so I saved it. And then New York.
This is how you know you're a gear addict, folks.
Oh yeah. This is
all of your Craigslist organized into each city.
Yeah, yeah. Well, because
it also helps you keep
I might
Asian
add
massage parlors all
right,
lined
exactly.
up.
Well, they took all that off. That's Craigslist has been devastated since.
Oh,
but yeah, so it is I look at all those different things, and lately I've been going to Facebook Marketplace, which I like the idea because if you're interested in an item, you can go and click on the person and see what they're about, and vice versa. So it's much more of like, oh, this is a real person. I can see everything about them. It's a little bit more what I think a safer environment, especially for women if they're going to go look to buy something online. And also you could see if the person you have mutual friends with, so you could ask about that person, how they take care of their gear and all that fun stuff. So it's really cool. And I saw something on there that I was looking, actually, I think it might've been on Craigslist too, but there's an amp from Vintage Sound, which is a Florida-based guy who basically makes clones of Fender amps, but he mods them. So he makes a Princeton. He uses a different rectifier tube than the original Princeton design. He uses a 12-inch speaker, which the original Princeton was a 10-inch. And his stuff sounds so good on the demos. And everyone seems to say great things about it. So I was kind of looking at that. And of course, I need it. Again, now, the thing is, I have that Hot Rod Deluxe, which I recently put back here. And that Hot Rod Deluxe does everything. And until it dies, it's my amp of that. And also, I love the fact that the Hot Rod Deluxe has an effects loop. And most of the vintage amps and the vintage amps clones do not.
Right.
They basically want you to put a pedal platform in front of it, and anything that goes through, where an effects loop, you got to put it through the face. And I'm not really that big of a fan of that sound of like a chorus or delay through the face. I do that with if I take the night train out. It's not my favorite sound, but I suffer through it.
I think if there's enough headroom in the amplifier, you can put a delay through the face and it's not going to really sound any different. But I get where you're coming from. If it's a Princeton, there's not enough headroom. You get early breakup, and then the delays all break up, and they're really loud. And yeah, I get you.
Well, the other thing is if I go to put on a pedal, like a drive pedal, now the delay is going to react harder. So if I've set the delay at a certain volume or a certain setting, whereas when it's through the effects loop, no matter what I put it through, that delay comes through nice.
Right.
Same. There's a consistency.
Yeah, I do mine the same way as you.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you.
Can I
express a pet peeve briefly about Craigslist and people selling gear?
Oh, please.
If you are on Craigslist getting ready to sell some pedals, or you're doing a top-down picture, you got your guitar case open on the floor, and you're down taking a picture of your guitar, keep your fucking toes out of the picture, will you? For Christ's sake, folks. You can put on a pair of shoes. You could even frame your picture however you want. Or even worse is when guys are doing these demos on YouTube, and they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna turn this distortion knob here with my foot." It's just like, come on, for fuck's sake. I really have to watch you like turning things with your big toe.
Right.
Just,
dude. Well, the thing with Craigslist for me is the people in their response. Because, a lot of times I'll come back at them and I'm like,
wait a minute. So your complaint's going to be more practical than mine?
Yeah, exactly. No, but people, you ask them, it's like, hey, will you take this? Then you get like the long song and I'm already taking a hit on it. I'm like, personally, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about your personal life. I don't care. I'm asking you if you'll take something for an instrument. I'm looking for a yes or no. I'm not looking for the violin coming out in the song and dance, how you bought this and it wasn't on sale and now you're losing your shirt on it. I don't care. You're selling it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, go to hell. I don't care. Like,
this is a business transaction.
It's a bit, right. Just say no. I don't mind somebody saying no. I'm throwing a number out there. Especially if I see something up there for months and I'm like, this guy isn't selling it. Maybe people aren't offering him anything. So I'll offer something. And if you think it's low, and I'm not really lowballing anybody, but if you think it's too low for what you want, a simple no. I don't need to hear what you paid for it new or how you cared for it in a smoke-free, pet-free environment. I can see the pictures. I know what you have. I know what it's worth. And it's worth what somebody's willing to pay. So at the moment, it's not worth a nickel, and I'm offering you something. So that part, and that's, I have a buddy of mine that deals with people on Craigslist a lot, and they flake. They're like, oh, I'll call you then, and then they don't. Then like a week later, oh, I got busy. And that drives him nuts, but not me so much. But yeah. So
let me ask.
That's what I get sick of dealing with. Yeah.
If there's a guitar or an amplifier listed, and we'll use a nice round number of $500, the guy's listing something for $500. In your head, you're thinking that you might want to pay $400 for it. But then as you're scrolling through the picture, his toes are all over it. What are you offering?
3.
There you go.
3, because I got to tell him I got to buy antifungal spray. Either that or I got to drop it off at the local bowling alley and make sure they spray it down with that shoe stuff.
Oh, boy. Anyway. Hey, did you know that the teachers are striking here in Los Angeles today?
I did not.
Yep. So I think LAUSD is it's either the largest or the second largest school district in the country. Maybe New York City's first. I can't recall. It's one of the two, but anyway, yeah, I figured it'd be national news considering that it is such a big deal. Anyway, they were singing a song this morning, which is how I'm making it. You know how I'm making this strike situation related to our channel. I just thought it was funny because it's pouring rain out here right now. they're all out there in, umbrellas and what you call them, like rain gear and all that. And I'm hearing, what do we do? What is it? What do we do when teachers I can't even remember. It wasn't very catchy. Oh, it's when teachers and students are under attack. What do? We fight back.
Yeah, it's genius.
That's it. That's the line. And I heard some rumors that they're singing some songs where they're doing some disparaging of the superintendent of the district as well. So I wish I would have caught that one.
Well,
Anyway.
when I was out there doing the stuff with Bob out in South Central doing the volunteer stuff, there were some charter schools, and those
Bob, by the way, is an LA police officer for those who do not know.
Yes, and he ran the PAL program, which I worked with him in, which was we were bringing music to kids in poor neighborhoods, trying to get them not to be interested in gangs and basically to be interested in music. And I believe you donated a guitar.
I did. Yeah, I worked with him a bunch too.
Yeah, and I remember they gave it to this girl who was the most improved grades and really wanted to play. It was something very special. They did a whole article about it in the LA Times.
Yeah, it was really cool.
And but they had charter schools, and these charter schools, these kids, it was like unbelievable. And so I'm totally for charter schools, and as far as like the unions and all that with tenure and stuff, I have little to no patience for.
Yeah, you'd get along with Melissa very well. She's right there with you.
Yeah.
I wonder how that conversation went behind the scenes between like Bob and his team and the kids that, they were weighing their option, like, do I want to join a gang or do I want to play an instrument? I'm kind of, the way I'm picturing it in my head is that the kid's like, so I can play an instrument. That sounds kind of fun. Is there a future in that? And the cop's like, well, it's a hobby. They're like, no, I mean, can I make a living? No, there's no chance in hell you're going to make a living playing guitar. Are you crazy? The kid's like, I'll join the gang. That's kind of
exactly. Well, the important aspect of it is really you have these kids who have older siblings, and in those neighborhoods, you have the Latino and you have the Black, and you have them not getting along, and that being somewhat where the gangs form. And when doing the music stuff, I would try to incorporate, listen, if you like country music, this part comes from Ireland, this part comes from Africa, and it's about unity and it's about everyone liking the same thing. And especially when you find children that like heavy metal and they're from different backgrounds and different cultures, it gives them something to bond with and to find out that they're not all that different from one another. And that was more like the goal of that whole thing. Not so much to tell everybody there's a great career in music. Come on down. I know you don't. But anyways, I was getting flack last week because I posted a video where I was giving my opinion about like the old school blues players. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that, where people, it's funny about musicians, because certain musicians feel like you have to be a damn historian about everything or else you aren't paying respect to it. And I completely disagree with that. And to the point of, you have like these old blues musicians that in the 50s and late 40s were playing songs, and these songs were picked up by guys like Jimmy Page and the Stones and even the Beatles, and they made it more palatable and more listenable and more pop and whatever you want to say they did to it.
More white.
Now, I don't even think that it was more white, because you have joking. Guys. No, but I mean, you can go back to the 60s and look at Jimi Hendrix or Sly and the Family Stone and what they were doing. And whatever Sly was getting it from, I don't really care. He was great. And that's like,
right.
And so when I was in high school, now let's say I graduated high school in 1986. 1956 was 30 years earlier. And to me, Chuck Berry in 1956 was a big star 30 years before I graduated high school. And he had a song back then. I believe it came out either in late 55 or early 56, the song Maybelline.
Mm-hmm.
As a kid, we had that 45. And for people that don't know what 45s are, look it up. No, I'm just kidding. It's a single. And we had that on 45. And I remember thinking, I love the chorus to that song. Oh, Maybelline. But when he goes into that verse and he's like, Cadillac doing about 95, I'm like, oh my God, you couldn't bore me to tears soon enough. I mean, a wonderful chorus. Oh, Maybelline, why can't you be true? Beautiful. Then the verse, and it's a turd. And it's like, I never really cared for Chuck Berry. If you watch Hail, Hail, Rock and Roll, where Keith Richards is trying to pay respect to him because Keith was a little bit older back then and developing his guitar chops, and maybe he took some stuff from him. And that experience seems like it was tumultuous for Keith. He doesn't seem like he's getting his ass reamed in this movie by him. But the point of the matter is Chuck Berry didn't evolve. He stayed the same. So you have a guitar player that's back in 1956 doing the duck walk, which for some reason people think was all that fascinating, which I find to be like, okay. I mean, you can walk like a duck. You're kicking your leg out. I find it annoying. But anyways, he does that. But then every song sounds the same. And then I
like when Angus does it.
Well, Angus, I mean, when you watch Angus and he's running around stage and he's got a book bag on his guitar strap in the early days, pushing it's unbelievable. I mean, they're really hilarious. But you've got Chuck Berry is playing, I sent you a clip from 1972 last night. He's playing the same tired licks that everything sounds like Johnny B. Good. And we're looking at him in 1972. And for 1972, he is beyond irrelevant already, right. Which is merely 10 to 14 years after his career was at its biggest.
Right.
He's massively irrelevant. You have, you've already had Hendrix at this point, and Cream, and Led Zeppelin, where people are really starting to develop as some strong playing and very intricate stuff. And then you've got this guy coming out singing Roll Over Beethoven. And it's like, it's so, I find it embarrassing because I find like that he didn't evolve. And what I mean by that is you could take any artist. If you look at, that's 14 years. So look at Cream, Eric Clapton. You could go to him from 1969 or 68, whenever the hell that big record came out. And then take a look at him during the album where he's doing Forever Man.
Mm-hmm.
That's an evolved artist. One guy's singing, or like I Can't Stand It, if you want to go even 68 to 82. I Can't Stand It. I mean, he's developed as an artist into something completely different. If you look at Van Halen, you had Van Halen 1, Van Halen 2, very similar albums. They were less than a year apart. Women and Children First.
Right.
You have like a live sound. You go into Fair Warning now, we start to add even more stuff. And then on Women and Children First, he added the Fender Rhodes keyboard in the Cradle of Rock. Fair Warning now, they're going into a different style that by the time they get to 1984, they're not the same band that played the Van Halen 1. Now, the best thing that band ever had happen to them was Lee Roth left. And now you bring in Sammy Hagar and you've evolved. You take a huge jump and you evolve into something else. Now, is that good for fans like me that like the Lee Roth era? Well, only to the fact that they didn't stop making ridiculously bad Lee Roth era stuff. Those albums are still there.
Yeah, they were frozen in time as being like the best and kept people yearning for more, for sure.
Right, which is always a good place to leave fans.
Right.
And then what you do is you go into the Hagar era, and the band has evolved. So if somebody looked at 78 from Van Halen and then went to 92, 14 years, you've got I mean, he was doing Right Now, and, you've got a completely different sounding, they've evolved. And
Yeah.
it changed with the times. And people who graduated high school, maybe, what year did you graduate?
99.
So in 99, the music that was coming out, go back, what's 30 years earlier for you? No,
69.
69. But look at how much the music has changed back
Totally.
then. And
Well, I
if
would
I
think
tell you to
about,
go back to 59, you're going to be like,
yeah.
what the hell am I listening to? Like,
Right. Right. Yeah. I'm not, all of a sudden I'm listening to Sam Cooke.
which is great, but
The
not rock and
best.
roll.
No, but he's fantastic. But
Yeah.
no, I know exactly what you're saying. You listen to Rush. First record is that Zeppelin wannabe rock and roll. By the time they hit Moving Pictures, they've gone through 2 or 3 different iterations of the band with the same members. They've completely gone in circles and done a bunch of stuff. They went through a heavily progressive phase, and now all of a sudden they're matured songwriters. You could say even somebody like AC/DC, where everybody says all their stuff sounds the same. The difference between AC/DC in 74 and AC/DC with Brian Johnson in 1980 is pretty significant.
Huge.
I mean, it's
I'll even go
still
further and
it's
say
still
the
CG&D, but
AC/DC of 75 and the AC/DC of 78,
yeah,
I think are very different. I mean, they
yeah,
evolve, they
they
grow as
totally do.
writers, they grow as players, and that's my issue with these. If you go look at the old players, they're somewhat frozen in time. And yes, as a guitar historian, I can go back and appreciate where that came from, but I don't need to pay any type of homage to it because it didn't influence me. And it's funny, like when I talked about Van Halen, because I always think about this. When Eddie came out, Eddie used to always lie. People would ask him, what does he do with a Variac? They see him with a Variac. He's like, I turn up the voltage, when he really turned it down. He would always tell you, I was a Clapton fan. Clapton fan. But then you go watch all the old, especially now that YouTube's out and you can see all the old footage. He's playing Fooling Me by Robin Trower. He's doing a ton of ZZ Top covers. You could see where his influence really lie. But he was doing the old diversionary tactic, as he always did. Stay away from you know what I mean? He was basically doing anything he could to get people off his scent. But, I'm just saying, I mean, it's beautiful if you have a Victoria amplifier, which is, point-to-point wiring, basically making the old 50s Tweed amps. I forget the name of the circuit. They call it like the E8, I forget what, E5 3 or whatever it is. I can't remember off the top of my head. But they make those circuits of the Tweed point-to-point wiring. They make some of the later blackface stuff, and you've got you've got makers like Tungsten, and you got makers like Vintage Sound, and it's beautiful to be able to plug into an amp and get that sound. But that's not the end of that's nice, but is it workable and can you work doing it? You look at all the great players. I know you talked about Brad Paisley's tone.
Yeah,
and
super good.
Somebody sent me once a message saying, look at here's Brad Paisley's stage. Look, he doesn't use any pedals. And then I sent them Brad Paisley's rig rundown where it's all being stomped on by a guitar tech and it's all behind the stage.
Right. Yeah, of course.
But people are so quick to be like, he's not using. And I'm like, why are you even arguing? Like, someone sounds good. Who cares why they sound good? Just make it sound good. But if you think Keith Richards is not using modern stuff to make stuff sound good, or like I watched Angus's rig rundown again the other day, and he's using those Schaefer replicas in his rig.
Yeah.
And Angus plays all the he plays a 1959, whether they're JMP most of them are reissues, the guys said. And they're taking the reissues and they're putting master volumes in it. And it's like, really? Which makes me wonder, why didn't they just buy 2203s? But I guess maybe they didn't reissue the 22. I thought they reissued the 2203.
Yeah, I don't
But
know.
for whatever reason, they're doing it themselves.
Who was using Wizard? Was it Malcolm using Wizard for a while in that band? Because I saw some rig rundowns for AC/DC where they had some Wizard amplifiers backstage with them.
It might be the new guy because Malcolm.
No, this was a rig rundown that was prior to. It was probably before 2010 even.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because I think Malcolm. I thought Malcolm's they said was all super basses. He was using the super bass when Angus was using the super lead.
Yeah, I don't know. I just remember seeing it. That was the first time I ever heard of Wizard.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, who is this? And then I started looking up Wizard, and all of a sudden it's like, why are these amps $5,000?
Right.
Like,
maybe they had one, and I don't know.
Oh, there is I don't know. But either way, I had a question for you. Talking about evolution, talking about Victoria and these Marshalls and whatever. I always kind of feel like part of the reason that young people, or millennials, or you call them whatever you want, why maybe they're a little bit less interested in guitar, or at least that seems to be the outward attitude, that they're less interested in guitar than maybe my generation was. I always kind of feel like it has a little bit to do with the fact that we, as the current and the older generation of guitar players, don't evolve at all, and we're kind of stuck in that. If a Strat or a Les Paul isn't good enough for you, Jimi Hendrix played that. Why do you need this? Why do you need that? We have a very crusty approach to how we let new people into our club. Seems like that guitar, pointy headstock guitars are stupid. Blah blah blah. You know what I mean. You've heard all that attitude in the West LA days, but it makes me wonder because there are a lot of guys out there who are like, if it ain't a Strat or a Telly or a Paul or a 335, you don't need it.
Yeah. Well, I will say, I think the reason is mainly because those things are tried and true, but they also, it doesn't matter. Like, who cares what it looks like? I mean, some of the 80s when Jeff Beck used to play the Jacksons, anything can sound good. And
well, that's my point, is who cares what it looks like? All of the people in our generations obviously care what it looks like because we're the ones who.
Well, everyone cares.
Like,
don't. No, but everyone cares. The reason why those pointy headstocks are big is because the young kids cared. They didn't want to play grandpa's guitar. Right. That was my problem when Marshall came out with the JVM, and Marshall came in and they were like, what do you think we could do to make these sell better? And I said, well, you made, they're like, it's more high gain. It's definitely, and I'm like, but yes, but what you did is you put it in grandpa's box. It looks like an old Marshall. Now you're still making the reissue Plexis. You're still making the reissue JCM 800s, and you're making the reissue JCM 900. Why come out with a new amp that looks just like those? Change the logo, change the look, just like Mesa did. When Mesa Boogie came out with the dual rectifier in 1990, or is that the year it came out, or when they introduced
90 or 91? I don't know.
He got rid of the word boogie because the original name for the company was Mesa, and that was what he intended. But Santana was like, these amps really boogie, and he called the amp the Mesa Boogie. But he didn't think that the metal guys are going to want the amp to say Mesa Boogie or look like Grandpa Santana's amp. It's got to look modern. Let's put diamond plate on it. Let's make the thing look industrial. Let's make the thing look heavy and mean. And they marketed the look of the amp to match the sound of the amp.
Right.
And Marshall blew it when they came out with the JVM because what they did was they put it in Grandpa's box. It's like, here's a heavy metal amp. We're going to put it in the box that looks like Grandpa's Plex, that looks like a Plexi. And I think it was dumb. I think it was a miscalculation. And I think that might have been a lot of the contention of the Black Star guys was like, let's make this thing look modern and big and angry, and let's come up with a better name for the amp and all that kind of stuff. And I think when it comes to guitars, the same thing. Grover Jackson and the guys at Kramer at that time were like, this is what kids want. Kids want to look like Eddie Van Halen. Put the Gibson Explorer hockey stick headstock on a Strat, and let's go. Make these things, roll them out. Let's go. Yeah. And then, they made them pointy. People want them pointy. They want them reverse. They want them, let's make a crazy shape. And what was the Marty Friedman guitar called again?
Kelly.
Let's make the Jackson Kelly. Let's make something crazy looking.
Well, that was that was an Explorer with more radical cuts.
Right. Yeah. Well, wherever the inspiration came from, I'm just saying, again, my whole thing is like, let's say you're a car enthusiast. Some of the car enthusiast guys are like, 69 was the best year, or 69 was the best year for cars. The 69 Camaro, the 69 Roadrunner, and the 69 Toronado were the hottest looking cars. And maybe they are. I don't know. But, I love the 69 Toronado. That's my favorite looking car by Oldsmobile. But anyways.
I've got two cars that I love. I'll take either a 67 Rivy or a 68 Camaro with an RS package.
Right. But nobody is saying.
Send it to LA.
You got to play a black Ford from 1914 because that's the only car. And you better not. Right. And it's like if you.
But my experience as an adult coming up, especially maybe less now because YouTube and all the accessibility, but when we were at West LA for sure, 10 years ago, if you wanted to play something that wasn't a Strat, a Tele, or a Les Paul, all of the crusties would be like, it was very frowned upon to be outside of the box.
Well, West LA, and this was my opinion when I worked there, was the people that had money in that area were older. And if you're appealing to the people that had money, you've got to sell what they want. So we had people coming in, doctors wanting Les Pauls because they grew up with Jimmy Page on their wall. They wanted PRSs because they're gorgeous tops. And they wanted Strats, custom shops. And then you got a guy coming in, and we had a $4,000 Dean on the wall, if you remember, the whole Billy Gibbons painted. See, was it Billy Gibbons that painted those? No, each one was painted by a different
guy. Different guy, yeah.
Every guitar was, and it was like $4,000 for a Dean. And you know who's buying that?
Okay.
No one.
Right.
No one. Because if you want to sell the pointy guitars, you'd have to sell, Ibanez, and you better make sure it's under $1,000. And for the most part, the price point they want to see is $500 because they're kids, up and coming, and that's where I think in West LA we had the negative thing about the metal guitars, was because the metal buyer, the guy Tone King. Have you seen Tone King on YouTube?
Yep.
He's a guy out of Jersey. Tone King is an anomaly for if he was in Los Angeles, because you don't have those guys who are the metal guys that want all the super expensive pointy headstocks and metal guitars. You don't have that, or that care about Carven and Kiesel. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen one Carven or Kiesel guitar in Los Angeles the whole time I was there, and yet they're not far.
That's true.
But on the East Coast, everyone's like, "Oh man, I've got a Carven." You do?
That's so wild. That's a really solid point. I rarely see them. I would say I never see them.
And let me just say this:
enough,
they make a great guitar.
And when we were at West LA, they had the Carven showroom in Hollywood.
Yeah, and they make great instruments. I think that their Strat knockoff is a beautiful guitar that's inexpensive, that you can go on their website and custom put the appointments on it and get it for a price that I think is extremely reasonable. Now, the only thing I don't like about it is the tilt back headstock on the Strat. I don't like that, but for the modern guys that don't care, they may like that. And I think they make a great guitar for the money. but I don't play one. I don't have one. I see a lot more here. And on the West Coast, the guys are much more, um, I watched a video last week and it was about a bass player talking about how he went back to playing P basses only because he does sessions. And every time he brought something else, some producer would frown upon it and be like, did you bring a P bass? I got that too. Yeah, just use that. Right. And that's what he dealt with, like his first year of doing sessions with someone going, yeah, let's just go back to the P bass. And so
I like the proximity effect of that.
Yeah. Can we go back to the P bass? Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, right. I guess Lumberg is producing all the records in Hollywood. Yeah, I'm gonna need you to bring the P bass on Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
But that's what this guy was saying, and it's like because it's tried and true. People know when they come in. Oh, if you got a P bass, I know exactly where to put that in the mix. I know exactly how to EQ it. I've only recorded it 100 times. And I got to tell you, it's really a laziness on the engineers and the producers, in my opinion, because somebody comes in with a bass. I mean, there's some great sounding basses. Music Man sound awesome. It's just taking the time to get the recording to sound the way you want it to. I mean, you can make anything sound like anything. But that's one of the things is you're dealing with when you're doing sessions, you're not there to convince the engineer that he could work hard. When they sit there and say, yeah, what other bass did you bring? Oh, good, you got a P bass? Yeah, let's go with that. It's like, all right, I'll just stop bringing. And that's what the guy was saying. He's like, I just bring P basses to sessions because that's all they want.
Yeah.
And, same with probably guitar players. They probably come in with like, oh, I got a Jackson. And the Jackson probably could sound better. I mean, depending on what pickups are in the thing.
Maybe that's part of the reason that, so many people are looking for music outside of rock and roll these days. This, what we're getting in rock and roll is just tired.
Well, yeah, I mean, we could talk about like people like Joe Bonamassa everyone talks about Joe Bonamassa as far as collecting gear. He's into gear. They make a Flying V by Epiphone after his Amos one that he found, or that Norman found for him. And it's like they make a big deal of him. And I listened to a few of his records and I'm just like, I don't get it. Like he does a cover of T for One by Led Zeppelin. I'd rather listen. It sounds close to the original. I'd rather listen to the original. What am I listening to somebody do this? Like, there's nothing new or fresh about it. Now, there's bands like Mastodon had a couple of songs a few years ago that I loved. And Rival Sons is a band out there that I think has a great sound. I haven't gotten too much into them yet, but everything I've heard I've liked. And then Alabama Shakes with the girl that plays the SG singing have a real unique and interesting sound. And everything is always cyclical. So people are always like nervous, like guitar is dying. And it's like, nah, the people are still hungry for it. Because I teach a lot of children. And when you get to like the 10-year-olds and you play, like I would play a riff. In fact, I played Breaking the Law riff for this kid who's 8 years old. And his eyes lit up. And he's like, what's that? And I'm like, this is Breaking the Law by Judas Priest. He's like, I've never heard it. I'm going to have my dad download it for me. So the next week, I come in, the kid's sitting there still trying to play it, but he's memorized that riff. He's like, I loved my favorite song.
That's funny.
I'm like, are you kidding? And this kid's 8 years old.
Right.
And we've done TNT. We've played, we've done a bunch of he loves AC/DC, but he loved that Judas Priest riff. And I think people get hungry, like they go back to the old stuff. And
well, that's because the old stuff kicks ass. There's no doubt.
Well, and the guys who are creating the video games are guys who are our age, that range from your age to my age, and they're putting it all in the background. So they're hearing it. They're like,
right.
That's Black Sabbath. Oh, this is great. It's like.
Yeah. Did I ever tell you about the time that we were at this was over the summer. There was a fair here in LA. It was like a art and music sidewalk thing all up and down Venice Boulevard. And one of the things that people were doing was a sidewalk karaoke thing. And I have a 7-year-old daughter who wanted to do it. And so we go up to the guy, and the guy goes, "Okay, sweetie, what do you want to listen to?" And she looks at me and she goes, "What should I sing?" And I said, "I don't know. What do you want to sing? You want to sing, just sing something you know. You want Moana or something like that, right?" And so she ends up telling the guy, "I want to sing Jailbreak." And I'm like, "Oh, shit, this is my, a proud dad moment for sure, knowing I did
Right,
something right."
absolutely.
And so the guy was like, "Jailbreak, who sings it?" And she was like, looking at me, and I said, AC/DC? And she goes, "No, not AC/DC." And I said, "Oh, Thin Lizzy." And she goes,
Right.
"Yeah, that's it." So she ends up singing Jailbreak from Thin Lizzy in front of a whole bunch of people that are, just passerbys. And you should have seen the eyes light up on everyone that was our age or older. They were all like, "That's an unbelievable song choice. That's
Right.
absolutely unbelievable." And they were like, "You put her up to that." I was like, "I didn't put her up to that." In all honesty, I thought she was going to do Moana or something like
Right.
that, right? But there is something that is just like a deep, strong connective tissue about old music that makes everybody kind of, I don't know, you can feel it. I guess you can feel it. The human element is deep inside of that music, so you feel it. You're
Right.
not going to have that same. You're not going to have that same lifespan, or if you want to call it that, of a lot of like the electronically produced music of today.
And did they ever figure out where that jailbreak was happening?
It was somewhere in the town.
Yeah, somewhere.
I think it was outside of the school or the pharmacy, maybe.
Right. There's a jailbreak happening somewhere in the town. Uh, I don't want to sound presumptuous. You
Yeah.
are the chief of police, but have you checked the jail?
Oh, that bit is so good. How ridiculous the Jailbreak lyrics are. And it reminded me of BB King's entire career. It was I I listen to it every once in a while, and I just think it's funny. If you listen to early BB King,
Yeah.
he's singing songs like "Don't let nobody around my house when I'm not at home,"
Yeah.
and like "Woman, I pay the bills" kind of songs. That's
Right.
early in his career before he has any money as he's coming up.
Right.
Late in his career, he's singing songs like "I like to sing the love that I'm feeling," that sort of stuff. And like "You're my best friend" and all this stuff. And it's just such a funny evolution lyrically, how it goes from like this like real suspicious of women sort of attitude
Right.
to late in his career when he's kind of like, "I got a good life."
Yeah, I never got the BB King thing. I just, not to say that I don't like him or that I like him. I just don't care.
Right.
I
I
just
like
don't.
his I like his voice. I think he's got a
Yeah.
good voice. That's it.
So what? That's my thing about that is so what? I mean, the songs are like so. I mean, I couldn't tell one song from the next. And also, I think like when you hear like every day I got the blues, and it's like this every day, it's like this up
Right.
tempo. Every day I got the blues. It's like, what are you smiling and singing in this happy groove for then?
Right.
Every day I got the blues should sound like a funeral dirge, not like every day I got the blues. It's
Right.
like,
Right.
what?
Right.
It's like, what you talking about?
Talking
That's
about
like,
Dude, talking about happy music, did you watch The Lost in Vegas? You ever watch those guys?
no.
Lost in Vegas. It's was it something and George? I can't remember their names. These two black guys that do reviews of like music. So they sit and they
No.
do reactions.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so they do these reactions, and they always do like metal and rock and that sort of
Yeah.
thing. And it's very smart from them because they're obviously going after like the what are all these white folks going to think when we're responding to their music kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, it's brilliant. But they're entertaining as hell. They're very funny, and they ended up doing foreplay / long time from Boston,
Right.
which is, I mean, forget about how many times you've heard that song. That song is brilliant.
Yeah.
It's unbelievably good. It makes everybody feel good. Like the moment that it transitions to that acoustic guitar part, and you're just like, what was that? That is so good. And the song's ridiculous, but it's really funny. You got to watch it if you get a chance to. Watch their reaction to it, because at first, the one dude is like, I've heard this before. I've heard this before. I didn't ever know what it was called, but I'm pretty sure I've heard it before. The other guy is like, I've never heard it. But then as they're going through it the whole time, they're just like smiling from ear to ear. And by the end of it, they're both like, this is going to be on my playlist for sure. This song just makes me happy from top to bottom. It doesn't stop making me smile. And it's so funny to see these guys that have never like really knew it.
Well,
but
you
anyway.
know, the one thing I hate, and you're bringing this up, is, you know, race is such a big thing today.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, you're racist, you're this, you're that. It's like the name calling and all that nonsense.
You hear that a lot, do you?
Well,
I'm
yeah.
just kidding.
You know what's
I'm just
amazing
kidding.
is, no, I know. But you know what's amazing? It's like, people are always trying to say we're not different. And I understand that. Look, we all bleed, we all cry, we all feel emotions. We're all people.
You know who bleeds a lot?
But we shouldn't. What's that?
You know who bleeds a lot?
Women. According to Alice Cooper, only women bleed.
Oh boy.
But anyways,
Mr. Garrison as well.
But anyways, what happens is people are like, we need to, and I think we should be looking at it like we should be embracing our differences, not to say we're all the same, because we're not. And when you listen to like R&B, there's some wonderful stuff there that comes from people and their culture. And when I was 22 years old, I played in a funk band. I got to play guitar in a funk band. I worked with this guy, and he was like, David, I want you to play in my band. He was this little guy, Voltaire, and was the nicest guy. I'm like, oh, absolutely, we're playing in a band together. You tell me the music and I'll learn it. And he was like, he gave me a list of songs. And I'm like, it was like the Twilight Zone. I'm like, who are these people you're telling me to look up? I felt like I knew about music, and I'm like, Slave? I got to learn a song called Slide? Never. TTF? I got to learn a song called Astro Boogie? What is this stuff? And it was like, and then I got to go learn, what was that song? It's an LA band.
Who is this Mariah Carey?
No, this was like old soul
I know,
stuff. You know, it was like, I'm trying to think of the song, you know, like
Brown.
Stone Soul Picnic by The Fifth Dimension, which originally was like a Laura Nyro song, but it was such a great education, because I was like, wow, like, and these guys were like, oh, you want to hear a song I love? It's a song by New Birth called Wildflower. And I hear the song, and I'm like, this is a cover. This is a song by Skylark. And they're like, Skylark? And it was just funny to me that there's like this whole subculture of music going by us. And so then I would say, well, we could do, and I would name a song, and they would be like, never heard it. And they're like, oh, I know Queen, but I never heard that song. And I'm like, it was a huge hit. And they're like, nope. And they'd be sitting there telling me like, Funkadelic, you and your folks, me and my folks. I'm like, that's a song. Oh no, we did that in The Big Angry. What was the song, Funkadelic song they gave me? Was like, Can You Get to That, or Hit It and Quit It, from the same album. And I was just like, it's a great education. And I think people sit there and they are so concerned about race, that we're all the same. And it's like, and you know, I brought up, we said we were going to talk about 24/7 Spies, and I talked to Jimmy the other day, and I bought his new album. That Spies have a new album out. And if you listen to Jimmy Hazel, and I bring him up because... Is that
why he hit me up on Facebook?
Oh, yeah, did he?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I sent him your watching Breaking the Chains video. Jimmy's like...
I wonder if he watched the video.
Oh, he did.
Oh, that's hilarious.
He did, because he gave me shit. He goes, "You're still bringing up Living Color 30 years later." I'm like, sorry. I'm like, I didn't bring it up.
You didn't bring it up.
No, I know, but he didn't know that because when in your video you only mentioned that you know what I mean? You'd
Oh,
have to watch our podcast. But anyways, Jimmy's like this guy who is so the reason why I think 24/7 Spies is so phenomenal is because he's drawing from everything he listens to, and Jimmy listens to everything. I say I listen to everything. Jimmy will post songs by like was it Mandrill? Mandrill? What was the name of that band? Maze, maybe. But you can hear, like, if you listen on that album, the 24, the one that you listen to, Strength in Numbers,
mhm.
in Earth and Sky, you can hear the harmonies that he's drawing from the Fifth Dimension type harmonies, where they're like, "You are my earth." Beautiful stuff. And he's drawing from some serious influences that even if you don't like, and this is what was my biggest point last week, even if you don't like the Fifth Dimension or you find the music hokey or whatever you think, here's somebody that's getting influenced by it that really is taking it to another level that could influence you melodically or anybody melodically. But Jimmy listens to everything, and Spies are packed with so much information just in one song. You're like, oh, there's so much there. I mean, like you did Breaking the Chains, which it's Breaking the Chains or Break the Chains. I always called it Break the Chains, but I think it is.
Breaking the chains around you. Oh.
But that opening, that
Yeah,
boom, boom, and then I mean,
dude. The guitar riffs all the way through that song are so busy, but they work so well. Really good stuff. Really good stuff.
I mean,
Um, Crime Story was really good. Room Number 9, The Last Call, Earth
yeah,
and Sky, Purple. You pretty much named the entire album. There's
stuff.
not. I mean, there's some songs on there that maybe,
Yeah,
depending on my mood, I might skip over them, but for the most part, I just listen to it all the way through.
I
I've
think
probably listened to that album cover to cover a half a dozen times this week.
yeah, got it going on in
It's
your
great.
castle, all alone now.
Yeah,
Oh,
super good.
I
Super
even
good.
think the reggae song, "How Do We Fight the Black and White?"
Yeah,
We don't. I mean, it's beautiful stuff.
yeah.
And I even think Traveling Day, I can hear influences from Orpheus. If anyone remembers Orpheus, they had a big hit years in the 67 with a song called um, I Can't Find the Time. Great, great song. And in Traveling Day, I can hear that influence from him. And
Right.
that's what I love about Spies.
Yeah,
It's
really good stuff.
listening. Yeah, I mean, and why I could understand that he's upset if I make a parallel to Living Color, only because they're both black.
That
But
really is the only thing that people will see upon the surface. Because in that hard rock metal scene at that era, I mean, take it to 88, 89. The only thing that would have been charting, that would have been funky, would have been Living
right,
Color.
but to be fair, those guys in Living Color also grew up with that culture,
Right.
in that culture of I wish I could think of this song. I might have to look it up because it's going to drive me nuts. But there's a beautiful R&B song. In fact, I'm going to look it up now. Play the
Yeah.
whip around.
Oh, ba, 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 ba.
Oh, Blue
Spinners.
Magic Sideshow's a great song too.
The Spinners are good.
Yeah. Oh, Sideshow's another one of those songs that's like what I'm talking about with this other one. I'll put it in the post notes right
Yeah, please.
now. You'll see the name of the band and the song, which I love, but it's one of those R&B songs you should learn and play, and you would love it. And that's
Very
all I
good.
can say about that.
All right. Well, hey, what do you got?
Everybody should check out 24/7 Spy's new album.
What's it
Um,
called?
yeah, Soundtrack to the Innermost Galaxy.
Interesting. All right. So, what do you have on deck this week for Dave's Guitar Channel? Any sneak
Uh,
previews?
I can't remember what I was going to do a video on. Um, I don't know. I moved my amps around a little bit now. I put I put the crank over here on the back wall because the bass amp that was there is going out on Saturday with a gig for me. And
Okay.
so I moved it over to here so I could take it out by the door and get the hell out with my bass rig. That's a 2x12 and an Ashdown, what's the name of that amp? MI Bass 2.0.
Right.
And I moved the Hot Rod Deluxe up here because I just wanted it to bring it up from downstairs. And I'm only using it like once or twice a month now because I'm doing more acoustic gigs. And everything else is what it is. Also, I want to point out you failed to mention in your review of the Rectoverb that you swapped out your speaker.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, there is a vintage 30 in that amplifier.
Okay. Maybe you want to put that in the notes.
Yeah, I should do that. I also did the modification.
Well, the mod's not going to affect the sound of the amp because you didn't take the loop out. You just took out the
Right. I took out the volume pot for the loop.
Yeah, which sucks.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, anyone that a parallel loop is an absolutely useless thing. It's a great way when you're recording or you're using live sound and you're mixing effects into vocals. It's nice to bring it in on a channel like that. But on a guitar amp, it's absolutely useless.
Right.
We call that a swing and a miss.
There you go. Well, this week on my channel, I'm going to be posting a video where I get to talk about politics, religion, and how much money I make.
Nice.
Just kidding.
I figured.
They didn't know. We have a very serious audience.
Yes. This week I will be I'll have two microphones going to be going at it in a boxing match. It'll be promoted by my Don King blue microphone.
You know what I could do? I could do a video on my camera here, the Nikon D50, more qualified to do a thorough review than a first-time DSLR camera owner that's had the camera for about a week. Nobody more qualified. I clearly know everything.
Hey, you know what's exactly. You know what's funny? It's I was thinking about doing a video about pedals to put in front of a Marshall to make the sound, because Marshalls are not really high gain amps, and you're not going to get out of the DSL 50, you're not going to get the sound that competes with like other high gain amps. So you have to put something in front of it, whether it be a tube screamer, the SD1 by Boss, or something of that ilk, a Klon clone or a Klon itself. If you feel like buying a pedal that's worth more than your head, the Klon, which is the silliest. Silly. Oh, it's a tube. I don't care what anybody says. It's a damn tube screamer.
Right.
You can put in fact, the SD1 is a tube screamer too. So if you like Boss as a company over Ibanez or Maxon, the SD1 is the same damn pedal. And if you really just if you want a cheap version of that pedal, buy the Joyo Vintage Overdrive for $30, $25 used online, and it's basically identical. Actually, you know what though? The Joyo doesn't have that metallic sound that the tube screamer and the SD1 has. That bothers me. And I think it has to do with their buffer. I do not know, but I hear a metallic thing in there and they both use buffers, whereas I think the Joyo does not. Mm. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. I think Joyo's a Chinese company, but if it is a Spanish company, it would be Hoyo.
That's really funny.
At least that's what my waiter told me at the restaurant the other day when he said, Henyoy.
And with that, folks, we're off.
We are out of here.
I got things to do. I'll catch you guys this week. Don't forget to check out Dave's guitar channel. Don't forget to check out John Bingham.
Yes.
It's guitars, gear, and music tech. Today, we're going to be boring. Just kidding.
I was disappointed.
Do you have any young ladies in your life? Send them to my channel.
I was disappointed in your last video that when you put the logo came up for what episode it was, the children didn't share.
Oh, you like the children cheering?
I did like it. In fact, I was hoping you would do. You remember the old commercials? Snippets.
I don't.
Oh, you got to Google it. There used to be an old PSAs where it was like they teach kids things, and it was like and you hear a bunch of kids screaming, snippet. I'm going to use that on mine.
All right.
My next video will feature kids screaming snippets.
All right, very good. Catch you later, everybody. Have a great week.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
You're listening to Guitar Talk with Dave and John.